Okay, the first thing we have on our agenda is number 37. For the summons complaint for Irwin Margaret's Remedy Bar. Like, come up here.
Hi. Should I take a seat?
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may real quick.
Go ahead.
So this is only here today for just the admit or deny portion of the summons and complaint. This is the initial appearance date, so to speak. Going forward, I would take a role as the prosecutor with the complaint. We'll have another attorney here for the process. So we're not going to be talking about anything today. It's just going to be admit, deny, and then either get a new date for a sentencing type date or a new date for a hearing out in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And you are?
Kendrick Yandell.
Okay.
I'm the attorney here for the bar.
got something further?
No, I was going to say, and I had a
Yeah.
chance to speak with the attorney, Mr. Magritz, already.
Okay. So, basically, how do you, well, obviously you're representing your client, how do you plea on these?
We'll deny the allegations, yeah, and we'd like to set it out for a hearing if we could, sometime in February if possible.
I think we'll work with the clerk's office on scheduling that out from here,
Okay.
typically, so we don't worry about calendars today.
Got it.
Okay.
Sounds good. Is that it?
That's it then.
That was easy. Thank you so much.
So that was items 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41. We're going to hold them all.
We're going to move through an agenda.
Hey, that was good. That was good. Good being a part of that.
Number 42, a license, Pentel for Iris Sports Bar. Want to come and sit forward? Hello. You going to be taking that over, or?
Yes, taking it over.
And done this before? Have you worked there before or done this
Yes,
before?
we worked before.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this?
Mr. Chair, and I believe George, and George is going to be working with you for a while.
Yes,
I
he's
believe.
right back there if you want to.
Oh, hi. You have to come up. I just was curious. Okay. I guess he's going to come.
George, you're the current owner, correct?
Yes.
We have a lot of problems here. Everything here is in order. I don't see anything abnormal. Anybody got
Mr.
any
Chair, I move
questions?
approval.
Second.
Subject to necessary requirements?
Subject to necessary requirements.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we have Natasha Cole. This is on the public hearing?
Yeah, she's not here today. I'm the other owner.
Yeah, except for your name's not on here. Nick?
Are there two? I don't have the application in front of me.
Yeah, they'd be co-owners.
Co-owners?
I think Natasha's going to be the agent.
Typically, we want the agent present. I guess what depends what we're doing today.
Well, this would be to approve or deny the license, since we had the hearing today.
The agent would be the one that's speaking for the entity, the person that might be coming in for a potential suspension or revocation. As the co-owner, I guess my take at this point would be, unless you want to hold it up to have somebody else come in, we could talk.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Wagle.
I think if we could expedite this, that'd be okay. I think this is...
majority on it.
Yeah, this is not, I mean, I'm satisfied that this is not your typical bar. This is really a print shop that is just serving beer and wine only, correct? Correct. And it's only incidental to the main business, which is the screen printing of... Yeah. And I've spoken to the applicant, and they understand the rules. I guess, they're not running regular bar hours, correct? Correct. And people won't be able to walk in off the street and even order and buy a drink.
No, only with the class.
Only part of doing, it's essentially incidental to the printing business.
Correct.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Rowe.
I don't have the business plan in front of me. Is that part of the plan, Alderman Weigel?
Yes, yes. That was in the plan, that's in the plan. So,
Yeah, and following up on what Alderman Roach is saying, right, if you can't change from that plan, you would lose your liquor license. That's the concern of our council, is that this changes and becomes a regular bar. If you do that, you lose your liquor license under our rules.
We got it, yeah. I'm going to move approval,
Subject to necessary requirements?
subject to necessary requirements, yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Chair, were you going to make the condition of the print shop as a primary use based on the new ordinance?
Yes.
Okay, just if you'd add that to
It's
the,
my understanding that's essentially what this is a print shop, and the beer and wine only is incidental to the actual use as a print shop.
correct, and with the new ordinance, you do have to actually manually
But
add
that's-
that onto this license and choose to do so within your motion to approve.
Okay. So my motion is that the alcohol consumption is incidental to its primary use, which is a print shop.
And I second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this? And this is going over quarter, by the way. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Now it goes to the full council after we're done here.
Tonight.
Yeah, tonight.
And yet, Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
Rashad, you're already open for your regular business.
Right.
So you've already, does he still need more another round of inspections on this, do you know, Ann?
I would have to double check
Okay.
the application.
Or no, have you had more inspectors in recently?
No.
No. Okay.
There are some requirements that we need checked off
Okay.
yet. We can touch base with us tomorrow.
See you Ann tomorrow morning. Okay.
Okay, number 44, Marcus Gorsick. Marcus was in front of us before. This is to petition to exceed the quota, and he was denied before. And that was before we had the new ordinance with the guidelines that we have now. And I think with these new guidelines, I think the story is a little different here. You know, we can follow them better. So,
If I recall, you've got a long time in the business, a good record of running clean businesses. Has anything changed since we last seen you?
nope. Now you wear a Bears hat here. Before we talk about, now you actually wear the hat.
That's why it's dark.
So tonight's vote is only to petition to go for a public hearing over quota. So it's not approving the license or disapproving. It's only to take it to public hearing. So I have a motion.
Move to go to a public hearing.
Second.
It's right here. Okay, you got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. You'll be notified when the public hearing is.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Deborah Barons? Okay. Okay, this is application, a new request, bartender's license.
Yes.
I don't have a police report on here.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Yeah, it indicates that you have a warrant with the West Allis Police Department from September 18th, 2019 for procuring, selling, dispensing alcohol to underage person.
Yes, correct.
Tell us about that.
I did it, first of all. I'm guilty. Second of all, I've been in this business for 40 years. First time I've ever done it. And she didn't look like a minor to me. I really don't have a defense.
Okay. But our records indicate there's still an outstanding warrant, and our chief is here. That's kind of putting
me?
you on the spot, chief.
For what?
Right. And maybe you would even know better. This could be old. Did you pay the ticket? What's the status?
Of this?
Yes.
Oh, I paid the ticket.
Okay.
I called today and they said it was still active.
I paid the ticket
Okay, so,
long ago, shortly after I got it.
Okay.
so do we want to make a ruling on here, or you want to hold this?
I think we would need to hold it, Mr. Chair, and just get it resolved. And I would be willing to vote in the affirmative once that warrant is resolved.
Oh, my God.
We're going to hold that.
Mr. Chairman,
all in one- well,
can we vote in the affirmative pending the warrant being cleared up so that she wouldn't necessarily have to wait for another meeting cycle? So if it turns out it is cleared up, she could get the license as early as tomorrow if in fact it is cleared up? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I did call before the meeting and talked with
I believe you.
dispatch.
You know, but let's say she went in tomorrow and cleared up the warrant.
How would I clear it up when I went in paid cash?
Or bring proof of, you have a receipt? You paid cash?
I paid cash.
Last person in the world paying cash.
That's me. I'm sorry, I'm old school.
My concern is whether we issue it under certain conditions or pending something to happen is at that point, potentially go a revocation process to take it away. I assume she's going to take care of it. If this isn't an offense that we're concerned about withholding her license for, if she's paid it already, then it's over with. I don't know why the warrant is still out there.
I paid it months ago.
Mr. Chairman?
go ahead.
You said, so what I'm seeing here is the warrant was issued in September? And when was the incident?
I'm not even
I
sure.
guess it doesn't matter, but when the incident was,
But I paid the ticket. I never got a warrant. Never got anything in the mail or nothing because I paid the ticket.
and this happened at work?
Yes.
Where do you work?
Crawdaddy's.
Do you have a conditional license
No,
currently or a temporary license?
I had a license in Brookfield. So then I was starting to fill in while Troy was there. And so I filled in on a Sunday night. And I'm going to be really honest. When this girl came in, me and another customer who's a regular.
Yeah. You don't have to go into the.
Okay.
That's all
Okay.
right. Yeah, we're not so concerned about the fact that you committed the offense. It's the outstanding warrant.
Oh, no,
Whether-
I paid it. I paid it.
So are you going to make that motion?
I guess what I'd like, if she can have proof that we're wrong, I don't want to penalize her. Now, if the warrant's still outstanding, then
Of course.
she would have to wait and another license to clear it. So can I make a motion to approve, subject to the fact that our information is wrong and that the warrant really is not outstanding? Does that happen
Subject to
often?
clearing the warrant.
Well, not even clearing the warrant. Well, whatever. We're subject to.
It would be safe.
This would be subject to necessary.
So do I have to go to the police station where I went to pay it?
So you're saying that there's no problem if we do that? I don't know if you say, and
It's not my preference on how to proceed, but if that's the way the committee wants to go forward, I think that'd be fine.
I guess the question is, you don't have a temporary now? Do you have a temporary bartender
Yes.
license?
Yes.
So it's not a problem if you have to wait a week or two for this to get cleared?
No.
Okay.
No,
Then
I
let's
have a
just
provisional.
hold it then. You have a temporary.
They just came in Sunday and checked.
Okay, and when does your temporary expire, do you know?
I don't know that. It's in the drawer at the restaurant.
okay. So you can discuss the warrant thing with the chief. And
Yeah, so we're going to hold this.
then we'll hold until, you'll be notified when we're going to talk about it again.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Gabriel Haley.
Or Hanley?
Hanley?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Hello. Okay, we're calling you in. I don't have any of the police reports on here, so you're going to have to help me.
I have the cheat sheet.
It's okay. Yeah. Okay, you've been called in.
Speeding, operating suspended, proof of insurance, suspended no insurance, suspended registration, retail theft, underage alcohol, 9 years ago.
Okay. Calling in because you're
No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't read them all out.
disorderly conduct. Okay, so we're going back to
THC
11,
this
11,
year.
12, 19, possession of THC. this
That
year.
actually got amended. I showed up to
Amended?
court. I showed up to court, to Muskego, and they dropped the charge to a disorderly conduct. Actually, I have another court hearing in January for that. I brought the papers, called the court clerk on that. I currently hold a bartender license in the city of Greenfield for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I've had bartender license in Oak Creek and in Greendale for Buca de Beppo's and that Explorium Brew Pub. So I've never really had a problem getting a license. I have showed up to these meetings before just to show you guys that I am responsible. I don't have a vehicle right now, so probably a good thing because I tend to drive illegally sometimes.
You currently don't have a license?
Me?
Driver's license.
No, I don't.
How'd
Yeah.
you get here today?
My best friend Amanda. I actually usually don't drive just because I do work at a bar, so, but I mean, I've never been to jail. I've never gotten any drinking and driving tickets. I have had two possession of THC charges, but I mean, that's, I don't know, driving.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
you have a felony criminal damage to property like 8 years ago?
There's no felony that I have.
According to the record, there is.
No.
I know that's actually been a problem for Greenfield when I was getting my license, and they had to call the city of Cudahy to talk to them, and I don't know why. A lot of people think that I've, a lot of cities, that keeps coming up as a felony, but I've never had a felony before.
And Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
and where are you going to work?
The Happy Tap, my boss that owns Green Lavier's,
Just bought it.
51st and Cold Spring, yep.
And part of the reason that we call you in here is to explain to you how serious we take the job and how we see from your record that you've had some problems in the past,
Correct, but not with work, and I'm very responsible with work.
But there will be times where you're going to have to make some decisions at work about following the rules.
Always.
Okay.
My boss almost came in here
Okay.
just to tell you guys, I've worked with him for 4 years. He's a straight edge type of guy. I don't know if you've ever met Mark Lavora.
So you've never had a West Allis license before.
Never had a West Allis license, but I mean,
You've worked in a bunch of places in the
I've
Southwest.
Yep, I've maintained licenses in plenty of places, but I have done this before. to
And
show
where do you
guys.
live?
I live in Cudahy, so I take the bus to work every day.
So you take the bus to and from work,
Every day. I've never missed work.
or friends, or Uber? Or,
Yep.
So there may be an occasion where you think you need to call 911,
Yeah,
and if you even think about it, think you might need to call 911.
definitely.
We have-
I've done that before.
Okay, we have trained and licensed professionals to help you with problems.
That's not an issue.
And when they show up, we want you to be cooperative with them and say, yes, officer, this is the guy, this is what happened. Not, I didn't see anything, I don't know anything.
Oh, no, there's cameras, and I protect my boss and the business and the people of the public before anything. I take my job very, very
making a motion?
seriously.
I'll move approval.
I second it.
Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman May.
is it Gabrielle or Gabriel?
It's Gabrielle.
Gabrielle, you made a comment there that kind of threw me off. You said you speed all the time. It's a good thing you don't have a car.
No, I mean, I tend
Without
to
a
drive without licenses. So since I've been 18, I've kind of driven my dad's car and then gotten pulled over for a faulty headlight or something, and then my license gets suspended, and then I'll be driving again, and then I was just irresponsible with driving, I guess you could say, in other people's cars without a license, and I tend to get caught in the act. So
Tended to in the past, or you still tend to?
tended to. I don't have a car right now, so.
So will you, again, once you have a license?
Well,
Or don't have a?
no, I can't drive right now until I have a
You're
license.
pretty solid on that.
Yeah, no, that's
I see
what-
you have a year-old operating.
But I've been working with the Wisconsin Department of Revenue to pay the fines that I do have that is suspending my license through St. Francis. You could call them, and that will be lifted immediately after I pay the rest of those fines. So, I mean, the worst I've had is a speeding ticket.
Alderman Road.
Now's not the time, but now is kind of the time. Representative Sanfilippo is moving something through the Senate where these are going to be criminal now, that driving without registration and without insurance. Is that going to change our ability to deny in the future?
This committee in the past has voiced concern over license or driver's license and how that's substantially related to license activity. I don't know how, whether it's criminal or a civil ticket is going to change it if the committee is under the impression that it's substantially related. And so it's going to ultimately be up to the committee what you guys think would count.
Okay, Alderman May.
It's the flippant nature that you kind of just had about it. Yeah, I drive other people's cars, and yeah,
I have.
it happens.
Well,
No,
because-
let me finish.
Yeah.
That shows a general disrespect for a license that you've already had. What can you say? Why should I trust you with a liquor license to bartend in the city of West Allis?
Because I don't drive. I take the bus to work.
But you've disrespected that license and the responsibilities with that. To me, I've got concern that you're not going to respect the duties you have as a license holder here as a bartender in West Allis.
Well, I mean, you bringing that up, I guess, is a good point. However, I feel that I am responsible enough and aware of my actions to where I wouldn't put myself in that position to the public safety at that point or wasting somebody else's time, the police officers or whatever, to where I'd rather be responsible getting transportation like I have today than taking that chance, I guess, in the future. Tickets aren't cheap, and I don't want to waste anyone else's time with something so petty like that when I should just follow the rules. So I understand, the severity of,
Well, and I want to follow up with what Alderman Weigel said. I mean, if you get this license tonight, your responsibility, if you see something bad happen, is not to hide it. It's not, you need to be able to call law enforcement. They are your teammates. They are the ones helping you keep a good bar.
Right.
So
I don't have any problem with.
You understand that.
I definitely understand, and I have no problem calling the police. I will call the police if I have any issues with anybody that's doing anything, illegally, or I've called the police at Lavier's before with no problem, not even to think about it, which is great because they're right behind us. So,
Okay, we got any further discussion?
and for being responsible. I just okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
If I can, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The motion that was made was to approve, I believe. And is that based on the evidence or the discussion that was had today that shows competent evidence of rehabilitation? Or I guess I would like to have that on the record if we could, if that's what's being made. Because I think prior to this point, there was that soft denial, the projected denial based on the record, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Made the motion, Marty.
Yes. I guess now that I consider it, though, I'm still waiting for proof of rehabilitation. If the denial is based on the repeated driving offenses and the license is still suspended for lack of payment, essentially, is that proof? I guess I don't see any proof of rehabilitation here.
There are statutory proofs under 111.335. The committee has taken the stance that these licensure type violations are ones that we'd like to consider for potential denial. My advice would be that I think there's going to be a threshold in these on severity of offenses. If there's large felonies or something along those lines, we might want something more substantial than a discussion with a person in-house. It depends how the discussion goes. Ultimately, it's going to be up to the committee to make that determination and to be, at least for the consistent, how we proceed.
And the motion is to what? Oh, okay.
Yeah, good question. What is the motion?
Since you made a motion to approve.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
my motion
I'll
to approve,
second it.
my motion to approve stands.
Yeah, and my second does too. I am impressed with the fact that you're not driving, that you are taking the bus, that you are getting rides.
Thank
That
you.
that is important to me as far as obeying the law currently, and that's what we need our bartenders to do.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
So it comes down, chair votes aye, so it comes down to 3-2, and it goes to the full council tonight.
So this will be acted on later on tonight in the big room by all 10 of the members here. And if it's passed, which we don't know for sure, then you'll be able to pick it up tomorrow before
That was Gabriel.
2 p.m. in the clerk's office.
Okay.
If you don't pick it up, it'll be mailed to you.
Gabriel.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and
Okay,
listening.
thank you.
Thank you.
Danielle Nichols? No. Okay, basically, let's see, 17. operating while suspended. Basically kind of same thing here. You're not obeying the rules with your driver's license. What makes us feel that you're going to obey the rules as a bartender if we give you a license?
Left the DMV, well, that was about a month ago. Got all my tickets that I have to do to reinstate it. Paid 200 and something to Kenosha. I have one for Muskego, and I believe one for West Allis, and then I have to pay $80 to reinstate it. I junked my car the day I got pulled over and arrested because I was done being stupid. I work full-time at Johnny Hammer's. I manage the bar there. I've been there for a year. I walk to work. I'm 6 blocks away from my job. I walk everywhere I go. I haven't driven since Muskego pulled me over. I junked my car probably 3 days after that.
Mr. Chair,
Alden Road.
did you walk here tonight?
Nope, my mother drove me, and she's outside. I did not. She picked me up from work.
Anything further? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval because I think that this applicant has shown rehabilitation plus whatever Nick told us to say.
Do I have a second? Second. Do I have a second? Alden me. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
You heard that about the license?
Bradley
Thank you very much.
Peterson.
Take it for everybody, don't you?
For everybody?
Forgot to attach them.
Okay, here's a new application for a license. You got a long list here. We have the, you can drive after suspension, but 11, 11, 12. Too fast for, well, those are for 19, but 14 is the last time we had any other major things like theft of movable property. And then there's a felony in here.
Yeah, and those occurred in 2012.
Oh, and
There was what involved?
There's three things listed as felony. January of 12, take and drive a vehicle without consent, and then elude a traffic officer, and then a different date, August of 2014, theft of movable property. Is that two different incidents, or is that one incident?
It's two different incidents.
So you have two felony convictions. And what were the penalties for that?
I went to prison for 3 years, got out, had 3 years of probation. I have paper here showing that I was released off probation last year, 6/11. In case you guys want to see that, I also have this when I got out of prison that I did the AODA, 12.
So the gap in your record here where you're not breaking any laws, it's because you were in prison.
2014
to January of...
14 was the conviction. It occurred in 2012. That's when it occurred. And then I was already away in prison when they were doing the court proceedings. Yeah. So I got out in 2015 and even...
And then January of 2016, you had a failure to obey a traffic signal, and then you in February, intent driving, imprudent speed, and speeding 10 over, too fast for conditions in March, and then late summer, failure to keep vehicle under control. I don't see any rehabilitation there.
Well, I disagree with you, seeing that if you look at the list of all the bad things for speeding,
speeding's the least bad thing he's done.
You know, but recently, so I
have had a number of traffic accidents, and that's how I got a lot of tickets.
Okay, Nick?
The traffic stuff, again, is likely not to be substantially related. If we're talking about license activity, that might be. Under 111.335 sub, well, it boils down pretty far, but a copy of local, state, or federal release documents and either a copy of the relevant Department of Corrections documents showing completion of probation, extended supervision, or parole is evidence of competent rehabilitation.
And and that's what you showed us, right?
Yes, that's what I. If you'd like to look
Got
at
an
it, you're more than
obstructed
welcome
view
to.
down there.
That's the second page here at the bottom of it. You will see the release from probation, and that one is for AODA as well.
This one's okay. This one's
Mr. Chair.
Alden Haas.
Yeah, have you taken a server's course or anything like
I took a
that?
bartending license course, and then I also got my license for Hale Corners.
Thank you, Judge.
Everybody wants to see that. That's
Sure.
Where are you working?
Working at the Bar West inside of Hampton.
Back to you. Here you go.
Second and Greenfield.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, you're working where I was talking with...
The hotel on 82nd and Greenfield
Okay.
Car West.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You have a motion on this?
Yeah,
approve,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Chair.
Oh, I second it. I think that we have rehabilitation.
Okay, it's been motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
What do I do now to get my
So I said
Stay out of trouble.
2 applicants ago. Your license will be voted on tonight by the full council and likely pass. And then your license, you'll be able to pick it up between, say, like 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. tomorrow in the clerk's office. If you don't pick it up, it'll be mailed to your address of record.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And you don't have your license until you have your license.
Right.
Ashley Seifert.
Seifert.
Seifert?
Seifert, not Seifert.
Okay. Stand corrected. Okay, here,
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
operation while suspended. It's the same issue as other ones. Alderman Haas.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, Ms. Seifert, right, yeah.
Seifert.
You just said it. So I got it wrong. Thank you for correcting me, Alderman Weigel. Alderman Weigel.
It's okay, it happens all the time. I promise I didn't pick it.
So, right, you have a number of operating while suspended convictions. In the past, the latest one is 17. It was in 2017, but you've had 4 in 2017. You have your driver's license now.
Yeah, I've had it since 6/24/2019. Did work on paying off those tickets, and I reestablished the license in June. So I'm valid.
Yeah, right, and that's what our concern is as a committee. We want bartenders to obey the law. When we see folks that have criminal or non-criminal driving or convictions or otherwise, there were points where you weren't obeying the law. We want to make sure that you obey the law.
Yeah, we work with West Allis Police quite at the bar that I work at now with my temporary license. I'm aware that if anything happens, it's best to call the police than rather fix it on my own, because that no issues against the bar, more so on the council side when it comes to points and stuff like that. And I do it frequently about that, but again, the license is fixed, and yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I second that. I think there's evidence of rehabilitation.
Any discussion?
Motion and second. Further discussion?
What bar?
I'm at Alibi.
Okay. We've had some problems there.
We've had a lot of problems there. Rick and Tammy brought me back to help weed out some of the problems. I worked for them back in 2017 when I didn't have my license, and I left for my career because I do hair on the east side. And they just recently brought me back to help some of the problems and issues that's been going on in the bar. We are aware of them, and we're trying to weed out those people that have caused. They've just had some bad bartenders and that have not looked out for their business, and so they brought me back for that reason, to kind of help out and weed out all the bad people and get good people back in the bar again. You know,
Thank you
there
very
was a
much.
lot of issues just with.
Okay, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Okay, we'll let it go.
Okay, we got a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Carried. Marcus Young, Senior.
It's actually on the same sheet right there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, now these are back from 6 and 18. There's both of them were felonies.
08. 08.
08.
12 years ago.
06 and 08, what are they?
Yeah, that's right.
18, I'm sorry. Now,
Yeah, have you
Did you
completed?
vote? Yeah.
I'm sorry.
no, have you completed anything to show that you've been rehabilitated from these?
Yes, I went to. I had some bad run-ins when I was young, so but I hadn't had any incidents since then. I've been running a successful business in West Allis since last year, so it's just really just bad behavior when I was younger. So that was over a decade ago, and I don't think I had so much of a speeding ticket since that.
In 2017, you had a speed.
Oh, okay, yeah, one up north. I forgot about that. Yeah,
Mr. Chair?
Okay, Alderman Weigel.
So what business do you run?
TNT Sports Bar.
Okay, on Burnham?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I guess, I mean, the red flag for us is this heroin. It was 11 years ago or 12 years ago, but we have it listed as a felony with intent to deliver.
Yes, sir.
What was the penalty for that?
Prison.
Okay, and how long?
I went for 3 years.
Okay, and then you had parole or probation?
Yes, sir, for 3
after?
years.
Okay. So do you have any paperwork on that?
I discharged in 2014, so.
So you probably don't have that anymore?
No, sir.
See, those are the kinds of things we like to see, though.
Okay, yeah. When I called, I asked him, what should I bring? I wasn't aware exactly. He said verbal.
I assume we can verify that, Nick?
I'm looking at CCAP right now. It was a 2008, 2.5 in, 4 out. I don't see when it was completed.
But still, that time has passed.
I would agree.
Do I have a motion?
I second.
Same motion?
Yes. The individual has shown rehabilitation.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
James Belfi. We got a lot of these.
What number are you on, Mr. Clerk?
We're on number 51.
Oh, I'm sorry.
don't have a new
The next one?
I don't have a new sheet or something.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're going to have this one.
I'm looking. Must be on the
okay.
wrong.
It's a new application. And where are you going to be working? Or
Hampton Inn.
Hampton Inn? Oh,
At where?
Hampton Inn.
Hampton Inn.
Oh.
So,
Mr. Chair,
Alderman man.
it looks like 3 OWIs in the past is probably the reason the gentleman is here.
Can you give me just an estimate of how many years ago that was?
Yeah, so the first one was in August of '89, the next one was in November of '90, and the next one was in July of '92.
So 30 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a policy.
Can you give me a record of how any traffic tickets, speeding tickets, any violations?
Sir, I'm not on trial here, and neither are you. We're just trying to clear the
I'm saying
record.
it's been 30 years without an incident. 30. Okay? I have 2 daughters in college that I want to make sure they get there. I've done it pretty good. And in 30 years, this is the first time I've ever been questioned about. 30 years. Okay?
Yeah, well, we call everyone in that has 3 OWIs.
I understand it's been
Because they're in
30
your
years
record.
since then. Never an infraction, a speeding ticket, any violation of any kind. Not a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that what you're trying to tell us is you are rehabilitated?
I'm not going to question that. I'm not going to question that. It's been 30 years.
Okay.
Alderman Rowe?
I would just say that we've only approved 2 in my 3 terms on the council for 3 OWIs.
I understand.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
It's my recollection.
I'll move approval. I believe the individual has shown rehabilitation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Making me do that, aren't you?
Thank you.
Okay, Roberto Herrera. Roberto Herrera? I think I'm saying that right.
There's no response from the applicant on the letter.
Yeah, all these were no response.
If I could, Mr. Chair, the rest of them didn't respond.
Maybe you want to just check to see if they might have walked in because
Okay.
this gentleman also didn't respond either, though.
Right, but he had called me
He called.
early this morning.
So we're not expecting anyone else?
No, I'm not expecting anybody else.
You want to just run through this
Okay.
real quick?
Roberto Herrera, Kayla Ludi, Bean Perfect,
Benet.
that's what. Isabella Ramirez, Judith Tobar, Jennifer Salzer.
Mr. Chair, if I could, with Jennifer Salzer, it was discovered that she had already appeared on the items on her background check.
Oh, okay. So we'll take her up. So, okay, all these that said number 52 through 56, are we going to deny them because they didn't respond?
Yeah, he's looking at you, Nick.
That's what the decision was
Yeah.
previous to this point. Correct.
52 through 56?
52 through 56.
I move for denial on
Second.
52 through 56.
Based on no
Based on
response?
failure to appear
Failure to show
and no response.
adequate.
And therefore failure to show any type of rehabilitation.
Okay. Any further discussion on these? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. I should put those aside. Read them all later. And then number 57 for Jennifer Salzar. We
Move approval.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then we have 58, various license.
Move approval subject to necessary requirements.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then we have 59, which is for a special event application for Kegels. Is it just Kegels on here?
I move approval subject to necessary requirements, if any.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussions?
Yes, what's going on? With the skating rink?
Okay. You're familiar with this, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I'd work with the applicants on this one and number 60 as well. They wish to extend essentially the occupancy of that right-of-way on 59th Street all the way until the end of 2020. The intent is to do ice rink during this winter months and then go back to the beer garden in the warmer months next year. In the meantime, they're likely going to be seeking some sort of vacation of that right-of-way, but that'll be on a future item for the agenda for council consideration.
Is that up to the,
This is a 12-month extension.
it's just up to the alley? Or how does that, I mean, we've had no complaints at all down there, nothing. It went well. Or did we?
There were some things, but it was for when we close off the street, not 58th Street. When we close off National for that event.
Okay.
That's the only problems that I
That was the German.
So, okay. So we have a motion and a second. This is item number 59. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
I guess the other question is, it was my understanding that there was a shared use between Kegels and Public Table. So is this essentially extending that deal with Public Table as part of the conversation? Or is this just Kegels doing their half of the street, or Kegels doing the whole street?
Correct. So items 59 and 60 you'll see are identical, and it's extending
there
both
it is.
premises.
Should have looked at the next
So
one.
it's going to be the exact same arrangement as it is with the same boundaries and borders and everything.
Okay.
Mr. Chair. And they have all their proper insurance and everything because they're on our right-of-way, or?
Yeah.
Well, especially because it's an ice rink, it's recreational use, so the city's immune from liability.
Okay.
Okay.
Recreational. I mean,
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Number 60 is basically the same
Move
thing.
approval.
Second.
Necessary requirements.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item 61 is police reports.
Move to place on file.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then we have 62, once again, a police report.
Move to place on file.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anyone opposed? 63, another police, this is a police report. Robert Lucas, we call him? Is Robert Lucas here? Are we
No,
calling
they
him?
haven't been notified to appear.
Okay, these are the ones that
Pending your
they caught.
decision.
Pending-
Did you
okay.
want them to appear?
Well, they were caught in a compliance check, correct? Or no? I thought they were.
Incidents.
No, I think these are a variety of incidents, weren't they? Or were they all smoking?
No, smoking was no
Smoking was
violation.
no.
None of these were smoking violations. These were actual incidents.
Yeah, let's hold these for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll hold these then. That'll be 63, 64, 65, and 66. We're going to hold all of them.
Will we adjourn, Mr. Chair?
Second.
Well, okay.
Oh, we got more?
We were going to take up, these are the ones we have to review, we call them in and everything.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're going to wait on these, hold these until the next meeting.
Very good.
Good, because that would be an even longer discussion.
Yes. Do we have any?
Now I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Now I got a minute.
All right, the Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. And we'll take things out of order. We'll start with item 20 on our agenda. That is the resolution establishing health insurance plan funding levels, employee health care premium contributions, and health savings contributions for the plan year March 1st, 2020 through February 28th, 2021. And we'll do that first as a courtesy to all the folks that are here and been patiently waiting.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Grill.
I believe Alex from Horton just left anticipating that this would not be the first item.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Where do you go?
We do the bond sales maybe?
Yeah, right. We'll go through our agenda, and then when he comes back, then we'll go back to it.
Nope, there you go. He's at the door.
Oh, well, there we go.
I know.
We lied.
Yeah.
Thought it was at the end.
No, we're calling you first. Yeah, just as a courtesy to everyone
Jump in
here.
a little bit tonight.
And so, yeah, whoever wants to go first, please.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Rebecca Grill, City Administrator. I'm joined by Peggy Steamiller, Finance Director, and Alex Lodry from Horton. We were before the committee last week and went over some decrements, plan decrements, and received some feedback from the committee as far as making some changes. And then also to provide some options for the committee to look at as to mitigate some of the increases to the various people covered. So there's a new plan decrement list here. It still has the separate increases, the actives at 7% and the 11% for retirees. Just a little background on that. That was adopted, that direction was adopted by the council in with the budget that was adopted for 2015. So that was prior to my starting here, prior to Peggy starting here. This is something that was adopted 4 years ago, so it's just been continued through that time. The changes that were made from last week on the decrement list is to remove the non-coverage of non-emergency items for the emergency room. And in order to make up for that difference, increasing the ER visit from 150 to 350. We had it at 250 last week. So those are the changes that were on the decrement list. You have a bunch of papers before you. This all black and white one. This an example on the top of the increases for the retirees, what it would be for someone who retired in 2012 that was on a couple plan. The difference between 19 and 20 comes out to $212. The next section has...
What line are you in?
That would be on the top. I don't have the column or the rows listed, but it says 2019 here.
Oh, I see.
And then 2020 on the other side.
All the way at the top.
And then it
Sure.
says the difference between 2019 and 2020 is $212.
Based on the 11%.
Correct. The next section has the caps for each year since 2004. I believe that's the oldest, the earliest date that someone is actually on the pre-65 plan. That's just for reference. And then...
Can you explain? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. Can you explain that, the cap?
I'll try. So the cap rate is the maximum amount that the city would pay towards your health insurance. It's basically set at the time you retire.
It's explained on the sheet.
Yeah, I have to put it up here too.
Any increase above your capped rate is paid by you.
And that's where the challenge comes, where the retirees are bearing more of the increases.
And you said this goes back to 2014.
When the budget
That
for
policy.
2015 was adopted.
That policy goes back that
Yeah,
far.
that's when it was started. On the bottom, there's a variety of options. The first one is the one that I just talked about. It's with the new decrements here, the adjusting of the co-pays for the ER and removing the non-payment for the non-emergency room use. The second option would be to leave the increases the same, but allow the pre-65 retirees to participate in the provisional program that we just started for the Public Works employees, and then I'll allow them to participate in the Family Savings Plan. We talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. Maybe Alex, if you could just briefly say what the Family Savings
So the Family Savings Plan is an opportunity through Network Health that would allow both active employees and retirees under the age of 65, if they have access to another employer-sponsored health plan, if they choose to take that plan, the city would pick up any premium differential and pay for any out-of-pocket expenses they may have, so deductibles, co-insurance, co-pays, as long as they go to a Network Health provider, which would be Freighter, Children's Hospital, and Ascension. So essentially the opposite network that the city has, because we have basically the Aurora-only network with Children's. So this would be the opposite, but if they do have access to another employer-sponsored plan and they choose that plan, the city would cover out-of-pocket costs and any premium differential.
So that's a little bit about the Family Savings Plan. So that would be another option. The third option I have on the list would be to equalize the increase between the actives and the retirees to a 9.5% increase for each group, and then change the deductibles and the co-insurance. The biggest challenge with that is that the city pays, the taxpayers pay for 88% of premiums. For most, it could be 86, depending upon who it is. So we would have to reallocate at least $250,000 from the adopted budget to accommodate that change. The fourth, I have 4A, is to create a separate retiree plan, maybe limiting it to a 7% increase. Then, and these are just ballparking, the deductibles likely would be $2,500 and $7,500 to mitigate the other increases. I've also
And a higher co-insurance.
Correct. I've also heard, and then the co-insurance also includes office visits. The way that we have it written with the co-insurance, it doesn't include office visits. It includes other things. I've also had people ask me, what if we did a 0% increase for the retirees? Well, then you would have to increase the deductible. So that would be like $5,000 or $10,000 or $7,500 and $12,500, something like that. So if you don't get it in the premium, it has to come from the deductible. So that's the changes for that. Another option is to cap the monthly amount that the retirees would pay. There was a recommendation, I think, Alderman May, you had suggested that perhaps they be capped at whatever 0.5 active FTE would be paying. So for 2020, that would be $426. An employee plus one is $835, and the family would be $1224. And then each year, though, it would be based on whatever the 0.5 employee would be. At this point, there's not a challenge to that. I don't know. None of us can know what the future of healthcare is going to be. So if that was going to be adopted, I would recommend that would come with a reviewing at every every 2 years or every year, just to make sure that it's still feasible, so we're not bankrupting the health fund. So that is certainly an option. And then a final option, we adopted a total benefit package last year for employees, and we made some adjustments with retiree health care. Oh, I forgot to mention with the cap amount, the other difference, we have pre-13 retirees and post-13 retirees. The people that retired before 2013 have their own individual plans, so their deductibles do not roll with the active. So they might have 0 deductibles and their copays might be significantly less. So if we wanted to have people participate in a capped amount or any thing, I would think that they would have to move to rolling with the actives if they wanted to get a different benefit. I would think there'd have to be some adjustment there. So that would be under the 4B. Going back to the total benefit package, some options. If a retiree is eligible for coverage when they get to Medicare eligibility, maybe they would pay 35% of the applicable premium share, but their coverage only lasts till Medicare eligibility. If their coverage currently ceases after Medicare eligibility, retiree would pay 50% of that, and then their coverage would end at Medicare eligibility. Then to kind of mitigate some of the losses, perhaps allowing them to participate in our dental plan at full cost. Right now, retirees don't get any dental insurance. Maybe allowing them to participate in any of our other voluntary benefits, like our vision insurance, but it would be at the full cost. Like we pay the full cost for our vision insurance. And then finally, allowing them to participate in the Medicare Advantage plan if the city has one, but it would be at their full cost, which is what people right now that don't have Medicare coverage, they can participate in the Humana Advantage program. So those were some different options to mitigate the increases. I know that was a lot of information, and I know you've been receiving lots of feedback.
Right. Yeah, I think that this is a lot. This is something for us to digest. We're not prepared to act on this tonight, not prepared to vote on this tonight. Anybody from the committee have questions or concerns or feedback, anything? Alderman Chapleski.
I'm concerned about your opinion, so please.
So my opinion would be the same as it was last week, other than the few plan design changes that Rebecca talked about. So removing the non-emergency room or non-use of, you understand what I'm trying to say, getting rid of that.
No coverage for
yes,
emergency room.
Right.
If it's
a non-emergency
service.
service.
In the emergency room.
So removing that provision, but then increasing the copay from the $250 that I had recommended last week to the $350. Also on that decrement sheet, we made some tweaks to the high deductible health plan. We haven't talked about that plan a lot. There's only 9 individuals on it. The changes are really just to roll with kind of what we're doing to the PPO plan, where the vast majority of your population is. Other than those few changes, my recommendation is still the same. I'm still recommending the 7 and the 11 with the plan design changes on that decrement sheet, and then adding the family savings plan to that. That is still Horton's recommendation to the city.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman Weigel.
I know I asked a week ago, and I don't think you have the number yet, but do we know how many of our pre-65 retirees have a spouse that has access to health insurance? We
won't know that until we go through
until we offer
the
it and
process.
ask and offer it up to people, and people will start talking to their
Coming
spouses.
forward, correct.
Yeah, and that would be the only way they'd be able to. There isn't another way that people get insurance. The family would only be a spouse,
unless they're a retiree and they are actively at work with another employer.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They would be able to take advantage of it as well.
And so we would pay that there also.
Correct. So it's not just through a spouse. If
not
they're
just through a
actively at
spouse.
work.
They could have a job another job that offers health insurance.
Correct.
And we would essentially pay their premium.
And their premium, well, it'd be the premium difference, so only if it's more.
Yeah.
But even if it's a $5,000, $10,000 deductible plan, the city would reimburse their out-of-pocket costs as long
the
as they go
deductibles.
to a network health provider.
As long as they're going to the next. Okay. So, Mr. Chair?
Keep on going.
I'd like to thank, I mean, you're right, there's a lot to digest here, and we will not be acting on this tonight, like you said, because most of us just got this today. And I want to thank staff for hearing us and giving us more options to look at, because I had nothing to do this week. But, yeah, this is an important issue for everybody, obviously. So.
Mr. Chair.
Alderman May.
Can we discuss a little bit more, again, the problem that we're facing? Because there was a lot of people in this room who weren't in the meeting we had the last 2 times. You know, I heard rumors from people that, you know, the city's trying to get rid of health care for retirees. That I've never heard that once come up in a committee. That is not the goal here. I've heard the city's just trying to make it equal to the private sector. If you knew what the private sector paid, there's no way in heck we're getting anywhere close. I said heck. Anywhere close to what the private sector is. I don't think that's a goal either. Our goal all along has been to provide as good of benefits as possible for as low as cost as possible. And the real problem that we're having right now is the health fund is depleting. And I think right now we're 2.9 million in that
each
fund.
year we're
losing about $1 million a year.
correct.
Lost $2 million last year.
Yeah,
We lost $2
more.
million last year. We're losing close to $1 million so far this year. The year's not over yet until March,
Yes.
February 28th.
So contrary to the rumor that we're trying to get rid of the retiree health care, we're trying to
We're trying to
preserve-
save it.
Yes.
So
But there's a lack of understanding by some people who haven't heard the whole full story.
Right, so the fund is being depleted. We are capped by the state legislature through expenditure restraint. Even if we found other ways to pay for this through raising revenue some other way, we cannot do it without violating the expenditure restraint.
We would lose our expenditure restraint payment from the state if we exceed that amount.
Right, and that payment's $1 million for...
1.455 million. Or
We get a $1.5 million
That's right.
payment, 1.5 plus, 1.45 is the max we could go up next year.
Which means this isn't just a matter of get the taxpayers to pay for it. We can't do that if we wanted to unless we cut services, cut staff. Basically, it's here's the maximum you can spend it on your services, these things. We can't just go to the taxpayer and say, pony up. We can't, we're cuffed.
If you would, then you would have to make up that additional.
$1.5 million
Yes,
plus.
so it would be going up the tax rate. I mean, I don't know what that would, hundreds of dollars for people.
Right. And then add to that our dilemma of employee attraction and retention. We actually want to keep these deductibles down. We want to keep premiums down. We want to keep co-pays, co-insurance, everything as low as possible for that reason. So it's a multi-pronged problem. I don't think people quite understand the gravity of what we're dealing with. If for some reason this next year we don't make up this $1 million, and the following year we spend $2 million and the fund goes away, then what? Then we're subject to whatever the private or the
We would
public
probably go
market would
with
offer.
we'd probably go with a state plan, and because of our experience, we would have very high rates. We don't have a very, I don't want to say not healthy, but we have people that utilize our health care in a very large manner. So we would likely have very high rates, and so we would have to put that in our expenditure restraint in the limit. So we would, so then you would get back to the cutting people, cutting services, that kind of thing. So
It's a net sum game. Here's a pie.
yeah, the pie is not getting bigger.
So I think I just want everyone to understand sort of the problem that we're facing. So when I had received emails, most of them kind of complained about the issue. I was fortunate enough to talk with Barry today. Barry is, I don't mean to call you out, Barry. He's one of the people to offer a possible solution when they contacted us. And his solution was maybe going more to a consistent increase where the employees, active employees, and the retirees face the same percentage. Was sort of his idea. Did I get that right, Gary?
Or roll it with the actives.
Roll with the actives.
But then they would have to roll with actives.
But then they'd have to roll entirely. So what you're saying is, if we did that, it would be 9.5, and everyone's wondering, wouldn't it just be 9? Because that would be the middle. It'd be 9.5 because the cost ratio for the retirees, 55 plus, if I remember, was $1.31 spent for every dollar put in.
Correct.
And for the going off memory is pretty good. For the actives, it was like every dollar put in, they got a 70 cents out.
Correct.
Right?
85, 86.
So in order to equalize that to a same percentage, that's why you get 9.5, not 9.
So the issue with the 7 and 11, the way it was drawn is we were trying to keep the retiree premium increase as low as possible. If you remember last week, or it may have been 2 weeks ago when I talked about our budget process, the actives were calling for almost a 0% increase, and the retirees was much higher than 11. I believe it was around 18 or 19%. So we merged those two to make the dollars more equal because the retirees have had larger increases than the actives over the last several years. When you look at the 7 and 11, it's not as easy as splitting the difference right down the middle because there are more actives versus retirees, and the actives, correct me if I'm wrong, Peggy, the actives pay a higher, or the city pays a higher percentage of the actives. So if we go to 9.5 to make it the same for everybody, really the city is paying out a much higher expense because you pay a higher percentage of the actives.
And that's why the deductibles would be $1,000 for an individual, $3,000 for a family.
And those plan designs are rough estimates at this time. Really, what we would have to do is if we want to push this off until January and look at an alternate plan design for the retirees, essentially what's going to happen is it's going to come out of one side or the other, whether it's premium or plan design. Retirees essentially, or actives, however you want to look at it, your members are going to be paying for it because we're looking at old data to look at the plan design differences to recoup those dollars that the plan is now losing from a premium side of things. Does that make sense? So it's really just a different way of paying into the system to make sure that the health plan is financially stable.
And with that option, you also, if it's focused on the premium, like Alex mentioned, the city pays 86 or 88% of that. So we would have to adjust about $250,000 in the budget to that, and we don't
What you're
really
saying is
have.
cutting service or cutting staff.
I mean, really, we're hoping that the family savings plan is wildly successful. That will help alleviate some of this burden, but I can't tell you what level of success that program is going to have. We can't bank on those dollars, so we have to. That's why we came forward with these tough decisions, because we need to make sure the plan is financially stable in the future.
Mr. Chair, I can't imagine it would be highly successful when we've been telling people our plan is more focused on Aurora and things like that.
It could be for the folks that didn't like the change a few years ago that want to get back to freighter.
In freighter.
I guess my point in all this is not an easy decision.
No, not at all.
No. But we need to make some action quick because we need to put stuff together. so
Open
people
enrollment
can-
is scheduled to start on January 13th.
So we have till January 12th.
We would appreciate a little more time.
No, I'm kidding.
Was it January 13th or is it March? Well, March is when the plan year starts. Yeah.
We have to enroll people early.
Sign up.
So the 7th would be the absolute last day.
Our next
And
council
then we
meeting.
would spend the next 3 days setting up everything. So don't ask us for any meetings.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, we need some meetings. I can't imagine we're going to solve this with just one council meeting, one more even after this. This is a lot.
Yeah, we should have an A&F meeting in the.
Yeah, we can figure that out offline.
Yeah, well, I just wonder if we should provide some of this information and get some input from people. You know, are you willing to go to the 9.5 increase and pay a $3,000 deductible for your family, 15% co-insurance?
It would probably depend on who you ask.
Yes.
If
Well,
you
that's
ask the
right, I
active
suppose.
employees, they'll say no. But, yeah, so we would need to know which one of these we should really cost out and come up with a plan, 'cause, like Alex, these are very rough.
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
on that item, that option 3 with splitting the, you said it was $250,000 a year that we'd have to find?
Well, at least for 2020, I can't speak for the next year. I mean, the health insurance will likely go up
Yeah, what's in it?
10% again.
We got something stashed.
Yep. Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Alderman
That's
May.
another point. Health insurance increases by what % every year?
5.5% to 6%, just trend. Pharmacies around 15%.
And we have a
And our
higher,
expenditure restraint increases by what %? Percentage?
2.3. This year, that was good, because we got some good CPI numbers.
it's
So
only
this
gonna
is
get
probably
worse.
the highest we're going to be, unless if the economy takes another huge boom, which is not being predicted.
Yeah, just the opposite is what we're due for.
If we get a recession, it's going to get cut.
Yeah. Alderman Weissek.
Sure. The rest of us on the council have not seen any of this information. I don't know why. Rebecca just sent out an email today with some information in it, but that wasn't included. I think the rest of us that are not on the committee would like to see that information. We'd like to be notified when the next finance committee is going to be because we want to be able to participate.
All right.
Yeah,
all
Mr.
right.
Chair.
Yes, Alderman
On
May.
that note, I don't think there's anything nefarious afoot here. I don't think
I
they did it on
understand
purpose.
that.
We're trying to make a lot of quick changes, get a lot of quick options.
But I think the rest of us in the council are making
Absolutely.
those same decisions. We need that information as well.
Okay. All right, so we've had a good discussion here. We'll have another standalone administration and finance meeting coming up in the near future to be determined. Ms. Grill, yes.
do you want us to cost out
Which ones?
all of these?
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to see the cost out on one.
Well,
Which I think we already have.
Again, I think the rest of us on the council want to know what's on there so we can make recommendations for costing out as well.
Well, how about everyone get back to you by Thursday
I can
on the
send it
council?
out.
If you can give us the information.
Then I guess we'll just each individually tell you which ones we're interested in, I guess.
All right. All right. Anything further on this issue before we move on? All right, we'll hold that for further discussion. Thanks, everybody. Then moving on to our regular agenda. Item 10 is a joint resolution with Public Works to authorize unscheduled engine replacement on a big sewer jet hydro vacuum truck.
That's not right.
Which one?
Move approval.
Item 10.
Second.
Have a motion from Alderman May and a second from Alderman Weigel. And any discussion? Alderman Chakleski.
Okay, so this is a piece of equipment that recently went out? Or is this
Dave here?
It was a recent failure. That's correct.
And it says here that
Dave, the
we have
vacuum, the new engine on the vacuum suck truck.
So what it was, a total replacement's an 18, 19-year-old.
That just happened on it in this
Just
thing.
happened, it's unscheduled, so we had to replace it.
And so it's going to cost $33,000 plus, and we're transferring over 13.8. Is that paying for all of it then? Is the other?
Yep.
So we'll pay for everything.
Yep, with that transfer.
That's the unbudgeted piece. We had the rest of it in the budget.
Right,
We just
okay.
needed an additional 13,000, and it's coming right from within the sewer budget.
And that's what it's used for.
Yeah, and it makes sense to do this big, huge repair rather than just buy a new vehicle.
Correct, because they're over 270,000, so.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And item 11 is an update on the water rate case application, Public Service Commission filing.
Mr. Chair, do we have to keep that open for open meeting hours?
The city attorney just closed the door.
That must be an old former city attorney opinion.
I like our new city attorney.
There's a sign on the door saying open meeting so people know.
Okay, yep.
And, Peggy, do you want to talk about that,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
Just to give you a little bit of an update, I don't want any surprises when the PSC gets the rate case in their hands. This was something the council authorized as part of the 2020 budget. We did start working on it at the beginning of the year. We got a little waylaid because of some of the projects we have. And the way it works with the Public Service Commission is if you don't have your case filed with the Public Service Commission by May 1st, they want you to use your next year as a test case versus this year for obvious reasons, because you'd already be behind if you use the current year. So it was kind of put in on a holding pattern until the budget was created for 2020. The budget is now created. We know where we're at. We are recommending that we go forward with the case at a requested rate of return of 7%, which is within PSC's realm of authority. That would increase the rates by approximately 11.32%. We did give you a little example here as far as a residential customer. However, please note that PSC decides those things when they do the cost of service analysis, and they do it on what pieces of our business are costing the most. If commercials are costing the most, they increase that higher. If industrials are, they increase that higher. So it would depend on them. The council really at that point doesn't have any authority in the process. The PSC goes through and does all the numbers. I would be able to bring it back to you though before the hearings happen and the rates go into place, so we could ensure that you're on board with it. Unfortunately, PSC has a lot going on right now. They have some big cases in, Waukesha's in, Milwaukee's in, both of which we're interveners on. So they have told us as of last week they're at a 6 to 8 month process. So you would expect if we were able to file this week, just from we're talking to you and Board of Public Works tonight. We file it this week. We probably wouldn't hear back from the PSC until May to June to start talking about it.
All right. Can I have a motion to place that on file, unless there's any discussion?
So moved.
Second.
The motion, and then now again, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And item 11A is on our supplemental agenda, an ordinance to amend salary ordinance establishing a pay range for a neighborhood partnership specialist.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Grill.
I believe it was discovered with the auditors that we did not have a salary range for these positions, despite having them for 10 years.
Volunteers.
So this is rectifying. No, they're not.
No, kidding.
I had Office Space stuck in my head where the guy's in the basement with his red stapler and he hasn't been paid because he's not on the pay. I hope we paid them.
Yes.
I'd love to keep the red staplers.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Alderman Weigel, a second from Alderman May and Alderman Root.
And about, the chief is here, if he'd like to say anything. These two guys work, what, 20? I don't know what their hours are.
About 20 hours a week. So they're both retirees of the police department. They work in the community services section for us. Any big event that we do, they're a heavy part of it. They do a bunch of other things for us. Speed trailer deployment is these two guys. Senior citizens that might have a safety concern in their house, they're the two that would go and do an assessment and try and get them into a better situation in the house. So they do a ton of stuff, but typically outward facing in the community.
Sure. Alderman Weigel.
Chief, they do the graffiti stuff.
Yes, I just going to say that.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
See you again.
Item 11, or no, we're on item 12 now, because, and item 12 is regarding the West Allis Dog Park rules and fees.
Move approval.
We have a motion from Alderman May and a second from Alderman Rote.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chairman, what are the fees?
Go ahead.
To clarify, on what was published under this agenda item, there is a little bit of a misprint. Under Part 2 of the ordinance, you'll see where it says Section 6.091A of the code is amended to read, and it says parks. What was intended there was the words under Section 11.13 to be inserted, and then all the language after that actually deleted. Because there's a different part that defines the parks, and then in this part it also defined parks. It was repetitive, so I just took this opportunity to correct that and say it's parks as defined under 11.13, and then the following section adds the West Allis Dog Park as a city park.
I'll accept that as part of my motion.
Kale, it says 1200 West Hayes Street. Hayes is an avenue, not a street.
It is
Mr. Chair?
Not crucial.
Doesn't have-
Yeah, yeah.
right.
And what are the fees?
That's the next item.
Oh, it is?
That's number 13.
I'm sorry, did I skip ahead?
So
Good, you're anxious.
We will make that avenue as well and not street.
Oh, okay.
thank you. So do we need an amendment or?
I'll just accept it as part of my motion.
Yes, thank you. Yep, and it's all understood that what we're passing here. Very good. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, and then item 13 is resolution amending the 2020 schedule of fees for the dog park.
Now wrote.
Okay, Alderman Rowe.
So it's a daily pass of $5 for anyone, and then there's an annual resident pass of $25 or a non-resident pass for annual for $50. It's gonna be effective on 1/1/19, or 1/1/20, excuse me.
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
I'd like to talk about that non-resident differential. I'm looking at Milwaukee County's 2019 permit fees and understand they offer more parks and they have much better enforcement on collecting the fees. Their annual resident fee is $30 and their non-resident fee is $35. I know that within the volunteer committee, we had been talking about this. The $5 a day, we understand, and like I said, enforcement's going to be very spotty on this. So we're really relying on people to voluntarily pay this. And I personally believe the 50 for the non-resident is too big a differential. I don't think we're going to get anybody to even buy that one. So we're pricing ourselves out of the market. We had originally talked about 25 for residents and 35 for non-residents. I know there's people who want to pay this. Trust me. Dozens of them.
And you don't even have a dog.
Well, but if we make it what I'll call stupidly high for non-residents, they won't pay it. That's my belief. If we need extra, we can certainly bump these fees up next year. Right now, it's real unknown at the park what the costs are going to be. Understand, staff has already been mowing the park because it's a landfill. They've been routinely mowing the thing for decades already. So we're going to have incremental, garbage and all that stuff. And with the fact that this is really essentially a voluntary contribution because there's going to be very little enforcement on it. I'd like to make an amendment that the non-resident fee be changed from $50 to $35 annual. Everything else gets shared.
All right, yes.
Just procedurally, because we don't have a motion on the floor, it might be easier to make the motion with that amendment.
Yep.
With that amendment included.
Okay, move approval.
Move approval for what you just said.
Yes, for $5 daily, both for resident, non-resident, 25 annual, and 35 for non-resident annual.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman Stefanski.
the resolution does say per dog, correct?
Yes, it's per dog.
Okay.
Yes. You get a little tag. Other communities offer multi-dog discounts, senior citizen discounts, disability discounts. I think we'd like to just keep this clean. We can certainly make changes. This isn't clay tablets. This is just paper we're writing this stuff on. Yeah.
Any further discussion? Yes, Alderman May.
To your point, I think you're right on. If you set it at 50, no one will buy it. But at 35, they might say, I'll buy it now and I might use it, and they may not. You might actually make money on that 35.
And this is all through the clerk's office, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll be able to have an app, or not an app, but go through the city website on your phone.
We have some details we have to sort out there yet. There's some concern that whenever we take credit cards, that those credit card fees are absorbed by the taxpayers. We could certainly do, it's $5 per day if you pay in cash, and it's $5.15 plus the 3% if you're going to pay with your credit card. Those are options that we can sort out later, I believe, right?
Are we allowed to pass that on to?
So the legislature is changing their tune on that, but right now, it's not on the general tax base. It's per transaction that's used. A credit card fee is charged.
So we can?
That's the standard in the state of Wisconsin.
So we can charge what you call a service fee for. And while we're on it, I would say it's going to be more efficient for us because a person paying cash, we have to provide them with the envelope and a paper receipt, because it's going to be in the Iron Ranger thing out there. I got to think that an envelope costs us 15 cents. So and that envelope's going to be on the taxpayer, right? I mean, either way, the money's coming from either. I think e-paying is going to be the
Once we have a single.
Faster, cheaper, better.
I'd like to put my 2 cents.
Alderman Vitale.
My 2 cents words about this dog park. Questions that I have. So who's going to, I hear collecting all this money, whether it's 5 a day and 25 or a year, So who's going to be responsible to manage that? So it's got to be somebody at the gate there on a daily basis.
There will not be anybody at the gate on a daily basis. I can promise you that. No dog park does that, unless it's privately owned and operated on a for-profit basis. The county dog park system is, they have a couple of what they call park rangers. They're not even police officers. They generally show up at a park on a busy day to check enforcement, just to kind of send the message. I really don't think we're going to be parking a sworn officer there. Maybe occasionally somebody go through. It really is going to be mostly on a volunteer basis. I mean, the ordinance has teeth, so when there is enforcement, that's the whole point of this. But.
So there are basically 3 rules that are enforceable. Everything else is more of a guideline, but the 3 enforceable rules are: you're going to pay the fee, dog has to be at least 5 months old, and it has to be neutered. So those are the only real enforceable rules where you could be sent to municipal court or issued at least a citation or a warning for those 3 things. So I think what Alderman Weigel is saying is, as far as enforceability, there's not going to be very strong enforcement, but there still is a possibility that you could be cited for not having the fee paid.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Alderman May.
It sounds a lot like the state park system. If you want to go on a hike on the Parnell Loop or something like that, you show up, you put the money in the envelope, and they may or may not be there checking that day, but if they do catch you, there are fines with it. So it's semi-honor and semi-random enforcement.
I believe the state now doesn't charge you. They just charge you what the fee would be.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Wait, we need a motion. Can I have a motion as amended?
As amended. I made it already.
You did already.
5, 25, 35.
Ms. Grill is on
35
top
for
of it.
non-residents.
All right, thank you. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, and item 14, resolution to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the City of Milwaukee for the DNC. Yes, Kale, go ahead.
So if there's any questions that I can answer it, this is a review for fire services, hazmat, and EMT. I talked to the attorney from Milwaukee who's working on this. There's a federal grant that's expected to be approved at some point in time in the future. We'll know by March whether that is going to be approved. So if so, that will be dedicated security money from the federal government. There's the option to back out of this agreement if that grant is not approved.
Okay. Move approval.
Second.
With that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Oh, Mr. Tracy. Wait, Alderman Stefanski.
This agreement here, who pays for this?
Federal government.
He just said the federal government's going to have a grant, and if the grant doesn't come through, we have the opportunity to back out of it.
Okay, but if we don't back out of it, who pays for it?
Well, we do.
That's what I'm getting at.
Then we would. So it'll be on us to back out of it if we don't get the grant.
It would be on the, by the language of the contract, it would be on the Democratic National Convention Committee to pay. The City of Milwaukee is not guaranteeing payment on itself. So that's why the grant is very important, and why in March I would be advising the committee as to whether the grant is approved.
So basically, we'd never see the money if the federal grant didn't come through.
You'd be relying on the DNC to pay.
We'd never see the money if it came through. Second question, why do we have to support this as a city? Why do we have to have intergovernmental services?
That's why this is before the council, is because the council does not have to approve it. It's an offer that Milwaukee extended to see if we would be willing to partner with them. If the city's not willing to partner, then this council could decline this agreement.
Okay, any further discussion? Alderman Chableski.
Yeah, we partner with them now on a regular basis, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have a standing mutual aid agreement where if they need us, we go. Likewise, if we need them, they come into our city. What this agreement covers, though, is any extra staffing that would be needed for large-scale events that's above and beyond our normal staffing. So they know they're going to have a big rally downtown, and they want more fire and EMT standing by. They could, if they exhaust their own members for overtime, they can call our department for overtime, and then the feds would reimburse that overtime.
Mr. Chair.
If we get the grant.
Alderman Weigel.
And they could conceivably be having a DNC event at the State Fair Park, or it could be something else in our community related to this.
Correct. We've already had those talks with City of Milwaukee, so every department in the county has the same agreement in front of them, and their councils are reviewing it during the same timetable you are. And Milwaukee has said they're going to try to geographically disperse the mutual aid resources where it makes most sense. So if something is going on at State Fair, more than likely it's going to be our members on the federal dime that are at State Fair, and not downtown.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 15, resolution awarding the sale of 8.57
Thank you.
$1 million in general obligation corporate purpose bonds. And so there's an amendment on your agenda. It says 10.92 million. We're changing it for the good to 8.57 million.
So we had
yes,
sale
please,
day today.
Peggy, yes.
Our bond sold today. We got some really good news. Don Gunderson from Allis is here to talk to us about it. But the main thing from 10, we didn't save 10 down to 8 million. We removed one refunding piece because it didn't make sense through the process. But we did get some really good results, so I think Don can share those with us.
What was the dollar amount?
The dollar amount is $8,570,000.
And you should all have a copy of the pre-sale report as well as the revised resolution at your places.
So the revised resolution is the action that will be considered for approval. That was prepared by your bond attorney today with the results of the sale. A month ago, you authorized us to proceed with this. The purpose was to finance your 2019 street, water, and sewer projects. That was new money. We also included 4 issues for possible refunding for savings. The way the couponing came in today, one of the refundings for 2012, it only had 2 maturities that were levy supported, and so when we ran all the numbers, it was not cost effective to keep that one in there. You were not actually going to be saving near what we had hoped for, so we removed that from the overall sizing and got the approval from the underwriter to do so. So that is the reason for the big reduction. We had 4 bids, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Our low bid was based on the TIC, and that was with Robert W. Baird out of Milwaukee. So again, we subsequently reduced the amount of the issue. It was what you're approving. On the second page of this report, we tabulate the bids. Baird was our winning bid. While we received 4 bids, I want to point out that they had a large syndicate. So as all those other underwriters participated in the purchase of the bonds. So it's a lot broader than a for underwriter interest in the issue. So Baird, Piper Jaffray, UBS Financial, and Hutchison Shockey. So we not just regional, but we had national support out in New York as far as interest in the bidding process. Page 3 of the document, we show the side-by-side comparison of when we were here for the pre-sale to the final in terms of the sizing. About midway down the page, there is the 2012 refunding that was in the planning and has been removed. That's where that $2 million, $2+ million reduction comes in, is the financing needs to do that. We also had some other costs that came in lower than estimated. We were able to use the premium bid that we had, meaning they provided you more cash up front for the couponing. That factored into the decision to remove the refunding piece, but it also kind of offset some of the cost as well. We transferred some of that to downsize for the refunding benefit. So I think the big picture discussion is the rates came in a little bit better with the yields than we had preliminary showed you. We have additional funds that will be deposited in their debt service to make interest expenses over the next couple of years. The annual levy amounts are a little lower than our planning. The net levy amounts are a little bit lower. Each of the 3 refundings, so the page 4 is the full comparison. I didn't provide comparisons because it's not an apples to apples now since our preliminary was a different sizing, but I can tell you that the net levy impact overall is a little lower than what our planning estimates were. We have an allocation sheet on the on page 5 of all the different purposes, the streets, the water, the sewer, and the refunding, including the premium that will be deposited into the streets portion to cover levy-supported debt. And then the last page of the pull-out pages is on page 6. This is the refunding analysis. So the 3 issues we did refinance were the 08, the 09, and the 11. So we're replacing those old debt with a portion of this new issue. On the far right, then, is the final annual savings, and this is made up of levy, water, and sewer. So there's 177,000 future savings. Now, if you compare this to the pre-sale, the total savings is less because we stripped out that issue, but the percentage of the PV savings is greater than what we showed you. And each of these issues individually is a better saving than what our planning estimates were based upon the bid premium or the bidding results that came in. There's also a copy of the credit rating. We held a call with Moody's Investor Service. They affirmed your AA2 credit rating. So this is a good report to read. It talks about the strengths here at the city, any challenges you have in terms of your credit rating, the factors that can help your rating go up, and those that can put pressure going down. Some of the things you have control over, others you don't. Certainly economic development is one that, and tax-based growth is one that to some degree you have control. I think you've done a great job with your economic development initiatives here, which certainly is in your ability to do that. Some others those circumstances can be out of your control. I also want to point out on page 11, this is a new feature to the rating report. These are the benchmarks that they compare you with all similar credits throughout the country, and they have a scoring that they do, and so they've identified how you rank in all those areas, and that factors into how they come up with that AA2 rating. Your fund balance, you're at a AAA, that's great. Those are things you control. That helps keep you in that AA rating as well, and high within that AA rating. So those are, and your cash balances, things that you certainly have control over. Some of these others, one of them, institutional framework, you're at an A. That's because of levy limits, so everyone in the state of Wisconsin has that. You have really no control over that, but that does put pressure downward on your overall rating. So important to read this. I think it's great value for all elected officials to see those and reports and read them. And lastly, we talked about this before, but we still are on a very low interest rate environment, and that's the reason we even were undertaking these refundings to begin with. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, the authorization will be for that lower dollar amount.
I think the one point that maybe you just want to mention is our rates were really good. When she said TIC before, that's true interest cost. That's how much we're paying. 175 is awesome. A AAA rated right now is getting about 6 basis points only better than us.
Yeah, especially in that early years.
It's a really tight market, and we did really well.
Yeah, so that you like 15-year financing at 1.75% is basically what you're, and that includes any cost that you paid to the underwriter to purchase the bonds.
Which beats our current rate of inflation of around 2.1 or something like that.
Alderman Weigel. Does this mean that when Pete's doing the public hearings on borrowing for, special assessments for streets, that we're not going to be charging 4% to our citizens?
Probably not.
No.
Because what we have to do is we have to take into account our total portfolio of debt.
Oh, okay. We're having a great year right now.
Correct.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean our 20-year picture and 15-year picture are that way. So I wouldn't expect that to change in the short term. 4% is pretty reasonable for special assessment debt.
I would challenge anybody to go out and borrow money at 4%.
7%, 8%. So our rate is very good.
Yeah. And one more question, and I should have asked this 15 years ago. Why don't they use A, B, C, and D like the rest of the world does? It's A, AA, AAA.
They break it out in all the multiple categories. I mean, Moody's is AA1, AA2, but S&P is and Fitch are AA pluses and minuses, so it's just they break it into multiple.
And not only
categories.
that, but they change it every once in a while just to
Yeah.
keep us on our toes.
So you always want to be up in the A's or double A's. or
Well, I
better.
figured that.
They go
I
to,
figured triple A
they
is
do
good.
drop down to B's and C's, but they break you break them into.
Okay.
Triple A is only by itself. Everything else has got three.
It's the whole state of Illinois.
You don't want to be down there.
No, that's I, incomplete.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, low B's are
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
All right.
Move approval.
We have approval as amended.
As amended.
And can I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 16 is resolution authorizing the mayor to partner with Savage Solutions with a 3-year marketing strategy. The Savage folks have been nice enough to stay here. It's getting late. Thank you, Savage folks. And yeah, you got something.
Corey's got a
Go,
slideshow
please
for us.
have at it.
You have to spin around. It's only a 2-hour presentation.
Only 2 hours.
You send out for food?
I have to be home till 11.
We'll fly through it so we can get the questions. All in all, a big summary is it's going extremely well. Data shows it's going well. Hopefully you guys are hearing in your district says it's going well too. It's been very well received. All we're going to do today is go over what we wanted to try to do, how we accomplished a lot of that, and what we're going to try to do in the future. Reminder that all we're trying to do is bring people, bring business, and engage the community. A lot of new branding initiatives took place. I'm going to have Tracy, who is the art director of this project, talk a little bit about those, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so really quickly, Farmers Market marked 100th anniversary, so we really amped that up and supported the marketing initiatives with that, with rebranding, doing some new signage for the Farmers Market, as well as promoting it digitally and just kind of getting the excitement around the anniversary. Dog Park, we touched on that earlier, so we also were responsible for rebranding the dog park. More collateral to come. We have a partnership with the National Fitness Campaign that we're really excited about. This is produced and it's just going to wait to be installed in the springtime. Welcome signage. Again, this is something that we really think will help the city with the rebranding efforts. Really clean. I went out, saw the proof. We're in love with it. So DPW, again, hopefully you guys have all had a chance to see at least one vehicle out in the field with the new branding. Billboards, just a couple examples. Oops, sorry. Did the branded trailer.
She really wants to get out of here.
Sorry.
So do we.
Yeah. Lots of great stories from Transaction Skate Shop to a bunch of other stuff. Partnered with Milwaukee Magazine on an Instagram takeover, which had one of their highest engagement rates of anything. So the word is out there on how West Allis is such a great place. I don't need to go into detail, but if you guys pay attention to the news, it's been on a positive uptick over the last several years. Kudos to the business development team here who does a great job. Everybody seems to have a different opinion on what West Allis is. I had a negative opinion, and people that loved it continue to love it, which is great. In our world, it's about how many times our brand can be seen by people. All this is in an impression report. We estimated about 90 million impressions. We got about 90 million impressions. And we have to hope that the brewers stay hot because we got 81 million impressions just from the radio network that they gave alone. But that's only as important if people are engaging with it. Our social media was off the charts in terms of Facebook and Instagram. We had about 5.7 million impressions. We reached 400,000 people with a $20,000 spend. That's off the charts in the community world. That'd probably be #1 rank. You guys are the envy of a lot of other communities. I'm very comfortable saying that. In terms of the website, which is basically still in its infancy of it's just out there to promote what the brand means. We had a 114% increase in sessions, 123% increase in users, and a 51% increase in page views year over year. Probably dollar for dollar from a spend standpoint. So that's all good data too. Our goal was to get to 1,000 Instagram followers. We had to wait till today to put this presentation together because we got to 1,008 as of this morning, which we're very proud of. We've done 207 posts and 18% increase in engagement, which people, you guys that follow it, there's a lack of negative commentary on the Instagram page, which is something that you wouldn't have seen 2 to 3 years ago. So that was one of our goals, is to change the perception of West Allis to the negatives. You guys have some great businesses. There's no doubt about it. Very unique, very eclectic. Lots of great food. Even did some OTT. So for all of you that watch videos online and you have those ads that you can't skip, we live by those, and yours was very successful. So as annoying as they are, they work.
You said that's an OTT?
Yeah, it's over the top. So that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
We like acronyms, makes us sound smart. We continue to go out and capture photography, daytime, nighttime, all different areas of the city. One of the things that we're working on with the business development team too is right now the city's website's extremely cluttered and busy when it's to take a business through the business protocol. So this is what the information architecture of the current business section looks like. This is the approved direction moving forward. The city's working with Civic Plus on getting this implemented. We're very excited about that. We've worked with their team on a complete sales process of how to take a business through the sales process on the front end of stuff, so we're very happy about that. We built collateral for them in 20. A lot of the same stuff, but we're going to use one of our, I would say, competitive advantages, which is our food. Our food scene here is actually very, very good. And so there's some ideas that we have. We want to start getting the brand outside of just the downtown area physically. So it's going to be shifting from general brand awareness to awareness with purpose. So you'll start to see that our focus is getting people, not just businesses here. We really want to reach businesses and consumers, and we want to leverage dining because we have such a good scene for it. Same media outlets, a little bit more fine-tuned. You won't see as much in the print world. You'll see a lot more in the digital world for obvious reasons. It's working extremely well. We're going to enhance That's Why West Allis. Currently it's this, which is just talking about the brand and telling our stories, and we're going to move it to more of a here's things that you can do, which include all our event calendars, our dining, our farmers market. Still talk about That's Why West Allis, put news in there, and then how businesses can get involved in the business process earlier. We're going to be doing a lot of business recruitment support, creating collateral, doing some social media advertising, especially on the LinkedIn channel, and building some new videos that talk about why this city is such a great place to bring your business. We got permission to take over and rebrand Eat West Allis. We have a lot of ideas to that. You guys will be seeing those come too. Marketing plan, how to get people to understand that West Allis is a dining destination. Ideas out there of Taste of West Allis at the farmers market, which will lead into a potential West Allis dining week, which is a little bit different than a la carte, and we're very excited about the opportunities of it. Small place seems to do really well here, so I don't want to go into great detail because it's 9:25, but if you have questions, I'll answer them. Wayfinding kicks in this year, so if you guys don't know what that is, City of Greenfield does a great job of it. Tells you how to get to the library, tells you how to get to the police department, tells you how to get downtown. That's going to be an initiative that kicks off this year too. It coincides with getting a consultant to actually tell us what goes on the signs. We're in charge of designing those. Had tremendous success with this in downtown Waukesha, which seems to be the most confusing place in the world for people to go.
Needed it.
And they needed it. If you haven't seen it, it's worked out really well. So that's it. Questions?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Weigel.
Do anything special for the DNC? Is that why you're heavy on the social media versus print? Or?
So let me tell you why not. We do have communities that are advertising heavily in the DNC. The messaging in the DNC is going to be extremely cluttered. So one of the things that we're talking about doing to the DNC is owning our own backyard, is talking to our residents and talking to our consumers here about why it's a great thing to stay inside of West Allis rather than going down into the city. So we're going to have a campaign around that. I can tell you that ad dollars being spent by big brands overwhelms anything that we could potentially do. It's, in my professional opinion, it'd be a waste of your money to try to get people from downtown to come to here. If you know anything about the DNC, their schedules are just a regimen of 6 in the morning till midnight. They want to open the bars later in Milwaukee just because of it. They are robots when they come here. So trying to get them to react to an ad is almost impossible. Yeah, good question though.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Alderman May.
I'm going to make a quick comment. I was in the city of Pewaukee about a month ago and had a meeting there for my engineering job, and afterwards introduced myself to the mayor there and asked where I was from, and I told him I was from West Allis. He goes, "Oh, there," and he starts going through all the cool things we've been doing. And you know, I'd say 4 to 8 years ago the answer would be, "Oh, there," almost a "Oh, I feel bad for you." Now it's "Oh, that's cool." You know, he said, "You know, I'm encouraging my children if they want to buy a house in Milwaukee County, go to West Allis. You can get a good house, good value, good place to invest." So I think it's working. I think all the work, not just for the promotions. I mean, you got to give credit to all our staff and all the leadership here, and the mayor and everyone else. And this is working pretty well. Have we thought about developing an app at all, where you know, a person could download a That's Why West Allis app, and they could go on, click restaurants, see where things are, what the deals are for that day?
So 2 reasons no. One reason is that the online presence will be responsive built, so it's easier to maintain. When you have an app, you have to plan for all the different operating systems, all the different phone types. You continuously have to get it updated in the App Store. And users nowadays don't necessarily want to go and download an app, so it's an extra unnecessary step. So that's why West Allis and having this whole dining guide is there's going to be stuff within it that's just going to be just as easy. So it's one call to action, then go to the App Store, download the app, download the Droid, the Android, and so it'd be a very expensive maintenance endeavor, not needed. We can't compete with Yelp. We can't compete with some others too. Sure. Yeah, good question.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I forgot the website even existed. I see the ads and stuff, I just watch them there. I don't actually visit the website personally. But
we've been extremely happy with the campaign. We'd say we're a little bit ahead of schedule too, which is a great thing.
All right, any further questions? Can I have a motion to adopt item 16?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cory.
Mr. Chair, just for the committee's benefit too, the logos, both of the circular logo and the word mark are now registered trademarks.
Nice.
We have to defend that trademark.
We saved a lot of money by Cal doing it himself.
I think it cost us $500,
Yeah.
$550.
Just to do the
And hiring
filing.
a-
As opposed to $25,000.
You can't start making pins
Very
with the
nice.
logo without asking.
Item 17, resolution to approve commercial facade improvement project contract with the city and Simon Says Invest regarding 583135 West National Avenue.
That'd be public table?
Is that help, Robert Jean?
No,
No, this is the public table.
it's public table.
5,800, that's right.
I thought it was LA Says Invest.
That's the owner of the restaurant, and then the property has a different name, so the grants go to the physical property.
Can I have a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 18, communication from Director of Building Inspections and IT regarding solutions for permits and licensing. Tony, it's late.
Yeah.
And Ed, but you can you go quickly if you like, or whatever you like.
Sure. And city administrator was on that as well.
And city
all
Did I
three of
skip
us.
that?
I'll let them.
I got a letter out of it.
I know.
Yeah.
So I think everybody's kind of aware. We are trying to come up with some sort of building permit and licensing software. We've been working on that for quite a while. We've had a few through the doors that some have worked, some haven't. I think you guys are familiar at least a little bit with BP Logics, which is sort of the current solution there. So over the last year or so, we've been starting to look at other options for a permit and licensing software. One of the we started to go through, interview all the different departments, go through everybody's needs. We developed a real good RFP that we were just about to send out, but then basically we found another option that's actually more of a government-to-government type solution. It's a government entity down in Louisiana who kind of wrote a really cool building permit software. When Hurricane Katrina hit, they kind of, everybody down in that area kind of said, hey, we need fast permits, we need, a standardized process and everything, so why don't we take this community's program, let's just use it across the whole region here. So they kind of did that, it worked great. That community then basically said, why don't we just start selling this to everybody else? So they're kind of pushing it across the country right now. They're in 14 different states, they're in, I think, like 100 different communities. So basically, though, the advantage of it is there's really no upfront costs. There's no like big software cost at all. You're just paying sort of a monthly fee, which is extremely reasonable. They've got a whole bunch of other options that I could get into if anybody has questions, but we've done a couple webinars with them along with other city departments, city staff, and everybody's pretty much in love with this program. So I guess what we're kind of looking for here, just kind of let you guys know that's sort of where we're leaning. If you guys, or I guess we're kind of looking for approval to sort of skip that RFP process and start getting into negotiations with these guys. Basically, like I said, there's no upfront costs, there's no anything like that. So if we get into this for a couple months and we say, hey, this really isn't for us, we still have that RFP written, so we could go back to that option if we really want to, but that's sort of the direction that we're leaning right now, and just kind of looking for a blessing on that. I don't know if Tony, Rebecca, if I'm missing anything there, but.
If we kept on the BP Logic platform, I'd have to hire a number of developers to do what this software does. I don't want to do that. To do an RFP, the big firms that sell this stuff for profit are going to charge us 7 figures, I think, to buy a big package to do this. As Ed mentioned, because this comes from another governmental agency, they're not driven by profit. They do need some money from us to recoup the cost of us using their software, but to me, it's the perfect balance between what we're looking for and getting it at the right price with an easy entry point to try it, and if it doesn't work, walk away.
And Alderman
What is the reasonable monthly fee that you haven't said?
Well, it's going to depend on essentially on how much we use. I want to say like, yeah, about $5,000 a month, something like that. Something like that, which is...
I don't know if that's reasonable or not.
Yeah, I mean...
It's a lot better than $2 million up front.
Right.
It's a lot of months.
Even I know that.
They do have different modules, so we'll kind of do this in phases, so it might be a little bit lower cost at the start. As we get past building permits and all the licensing, if we start doing, other programs throughout the city, other permits, parking permits and pet licenses and all these other things, that cost might go up the more that we're using it and stuff.
And what do we pay for BP Logics right now?
We pay the vendor $18,000 a year, but there's an internal cost I have to support the platform with some labor and very specialized resources. If we move to this solution, BP Logics would eventually not be part of our portfolio, and we would recoup those dollars and repurpose the staff.
And the company does, they write all the pretty much everything that we need. They handle all that, all the updates and everything. We can do some minor ones, but the other nice thing about it is they cover all support, both internally and externally. So if somebody's trying to apply for a permit and they can't figure out the website or they can't figure out the app, they're not calling Tony's staff to say, hey, how can I do this? They're calling a 1-800 number down there, and somebody's on there that's staffing that, and we'll walk them through it. So
we need a Cajun translator?
Possibly.
I think Alderman Shaplewski is first, and then Alderman Stefanski.
And this is all budgeted.
We're going to have to reallocate some of our vacant.
Or what?
We
got money laying around?
Well, we have 2 vacancies that have come up since the budget was adopted, and there's another person
There's
in
one more that you'll hear about more in January when I bring to this committee some thoughts I have on restructuring IT. We already eliminated one of the positions and have recouped an FTE through that.
So it's partially in the budget and partially not, or?
Well, it's going to be much less than those positions. I mean, our positions with salary and benefits are
Right, I understand that. But I'm just saying that I just asked if it was budgeted. The answer is no. It wasn't budgeted for this one.
Correct, because
But we have the money. We have money to cover it.
We were going to go out for an RFP, which we would have had to probably use some, move from a fund balance.
And it was in the budget. It just didn't make the final cut when all of the adjustments had to be made. We had to eliminate it at that point, which was part of the whole redirection, not to buy a $2 million program.
Rental buy.
This one looked a little bit more advantageous at that point. So it was in the budget, the whole budget process till probably the last week.
Alderman Stefanski?
Are you guys going to plan on like a pilot on a certain project or something to seem viable?
Yeah, I mean, basically we'll take it in phases. So yes, we'll have them kind of write a building permit or something like that. We'll start with that. We'll play with it internally, make sure it's going to work for everything. Have it tested out with some of our contractors, and that's we've done it that way with our past permit software as well.
They're going to test with District 2 first, all District 2?
No,
Will be tested first?
As amended?
Between now and April 7th? Okay.
So we have a consensus among the committee to proceed with this?
Yes.
Head nods. Yes. All right. Yeah. So then can I have a motion to place on file?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you. And item 19, can I have a motion to place on file?
Move to place on file.
Second.
And any discussion?
I like her so
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And that's it. Anything else to properly come before the committee?
We adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.